If you would, 1 Corinthians chapter 13. First Corinthians chapter 13, it is the chapter where Paul talks about love, and consequently it really is known as just that, the love chapter. It is very easy to outline this chapter. We said last week that as we look at this chapter, it falls into three segments. The first one, verses 1 through 3, talk about the supremacy of love. The second one, section, verses 4 through 7, talk about the definition of love. That's what we'll start to look at today. And then the last section, verses 8 through 13, talk about the permanence of love. Paul said last week, speaking of the supremacy of love, in verses 1 through 3, Paul wrote these words: "If I speak with the tongues of men and angels, but I do not have love, I've become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy, if I know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but I do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I deliver my body to be burned, but I do not have love, it profits me nothing." What Paul is doing here is not in any way diminishing the importance of gifts. He's not in any way de-emphasizing or minimizing gifts. Those are all significant. What Paul's saying is this: as important as gifts are, there's something supremely important, and that's love. In fact, without it, you're deficient. See the phrase, it repeats itself there 3 times. If I do not have love, I'm just making a bunch of racket, verse 1 says. Just making a lot of noise. If I don't have love, verse 2 says, I am nothing. In fact, verse 3 to me is particularly strong. If I give, and that word give means in a systematic way. If I respond in a systematic way, I'm giving everything I own. And I even present my body as a sacrifice. I'm ready to die for my faith if necessary. If I give away everything I own in a conscious way, if I present my body to be burned and yet I don't have love, it doesn't do me any good. What Paul's saying is, for ministry to honestly take place, there has to be in the heart of the minister love. When we use a word like minister and ministry, we're talking about servants. We're not talking about somebody who's paid to do this. We're talking about every Christian. In your life, your specific life, there will be no ministry if the heart of the servant is not prepared and if that servant is not marked by love. We said today what we want to do is try to define love. I went on the internet yesterday and I just did a word search. I just did the word love. I got 17,215,250 entries, so I probably only read half of them, I'd guess. I didn't read any of them because you could see that some of it was going to get into stuff I shouldn't probably look at. But there was one, this was like the first site on the first page, lovingyou.com, and there are little love quotes. You just type in your little love quote and kind of define love or talk about love. Here's one. When it rains, look for a rainbow. Okay? Here's one. To see unconditional love, look in the eyes of a child. Especially when you've just denied something to, and you'll see that unconditional love. Give me that. Love is like a rose, the special one that grows in winter. Stupid, just stupid. What does that mean? Love, I like this. Love and electricity are one and the same, my dear. If you do not feel the jolt in your soul every time a kiss is shared, a whisper is spoken, a touch is felt, then you're not really in love at all. Goodbye. We're done. On to the next one. A failing love. Did I mention to you there are 2,700 of these? I won't read them all. A failing love is like desperately hanging on to something precious, not wanting to give up, but your hands feel the pain, and when you finally let go, you're free from the pain, but your hands are empty. Finally, a guy writes, Those are all girls. Here's a guy. Love is like a rhinoceros. Love is like a rhino. It's short-sighted and hasty. If it cannot find a way, it'll make a way. Here's the last two. For a while I thought I'd never love or hate anyone. I've come to realize that I've loved and hated the same person. And this is just perfect. I can't live with you. I can't live without you. I think those people were in my office this week. It was awful. Well, whatever. Here you go. Here's the definition we're going to work with, Paul's definition. Verses 4 through 7. Love is patient. Love is kind. And it is not jealous. Love does not brag and is not arrogant. It does not act unbecomingly. It does not seek its own. It is not provoked. It does not take into account a wrong suffered. It does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoice with truth. Verse 7, love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. What we get from this is love is way more than just a feeling or something abstract. Are there emotions and feelings attached to love? Obviously there are. If you've ever seen someone, especially somebody that's kind of like just thinks they're in love, there's all those feelings. There's that giddiness. There's that sprint to get the phone when it rings. There's all these little things. Are there feelings attached to love? You bet there are. But by and large, we're reminded that love is not passive, it's active, it's tangible, it's visible. I ought to be able to demonstrate my love for you. I shouldn't just write you a poem, although that's fine. I should back it up with action. Love's an active word, so Paul begins to define it. Here's what he says first. Love is patient. Some of your translations will say long-suffering or long-tempered. One commentator writes this, like the agape love itself, the patience spoken of in the New Testament was a virtue only among Christians. In the Greek world, self-sacrificing love and non-avenging patience were considered weakness, unworthy of the noble men and women. Aristotle, for example, taught that the great Greek virtue was the refusal to tolerate insult or injury and to strike back in retaliation for the slightest offense. Vengeance was a virtue. The world has always tended to make heroes out of those who fight back, who stand up for their own welfare and rights above all else. But love, God's love, is the very opposite. Its primary concern is for the welfare of others, not itself. It's much more willing to be taken advantage of than to take advantage, let alone avenge. Love does not retaliate. This word that's translated patience has with it in mind, meaning almost exclusively patience with people, not dealing with circumstances, but dealing with individuals. It means I'm hanging in there with people. Here's a great way to remember it. I'm long-suffering. I'm patient with that person. I will wait and wait and wait for God to do His work in that person's life. See that? What struck me as I put this together was this, that we're going to generate and rub a lot of nerves with this lesson. It expands to all relationship. This has application at work. It has application at the club, in every relationship. But ultimately, you're going to look at it in the male-female, more specific in the husband-wife relationship. And I think what you see before you, in fact, I know what you see before you, is God's prescription for true love, real love. This is what love looks like. This is how you know if you are a lover or not. Inevitably, what happens, and I anticipated this, is lots of emails and lots of calls, because we're going to talk about kindness and gentleness and all this stuff. And people are going to say, because here's the question, but my guy's not like that. My wife's not like that. Do you understand that the vows themselves anticipate difficulties for better, for worse, for richer, for poor, in sickness and in health? You see that? Wives, submit to your husbands. But wait a minute, what if he's making bad decisions? Well, it would seem to me that's when it would be a challenge to submit. It wouldn't be that hard the other times, would it? Seems to me that's what it has in mind. Husbands, love your wife. Well, what if she's not responding? Well, I think that's exactly what he's got in mind there. Love her, nurture her, whether she's responding or not. That's not the issue. The issue for me is not whether Susan responds or not, and for Susan whether I respond or not. The issue for us is, am I the husband I'm supposed to be? Is God the wife? Is Susan the wife that she's supposed to be? That's the deal. We did something Friday. I thought it was going to be I got to admit, I thought it was going to be a little goofy. I got a call from a couple. They don't go to church here. They're in a PL study. They're in another church. But they've really enjoyed the PL studies, and they said, we want to renew our vows. I thought, okay. So I had in mind, I thought they'd want to do something at their house or have people together. They said, no, we want to do it at the church. I said, fine. They said, what do you want to do it? And they said, well, when can you do it? And I said, Friday at 3. And they said, perfect. And I said, well, what about people? I said, no, they're just going to be the three of us. And I thought, really? This is going to be weird. So I said, fine. I've been married 37 years. And I had no idea. I didn't have anything planned. I didn't know. I just figured, I'll think of something when I get there. So I came in. I figured something would happen. So I sat down, and she brought all these wedding pictures of it was beautiful. And there they were as a couple walking down the aisle, and they're taking vows, and they're doing this, and they're going, they're doing all this. And it was, so I said, well, tell me about this. How'd you meet? We're just going. And we sat right there for 40 minutes talking about all these things. And all the time they're talking, I'm thinking, okay, what am I going to do here? So they're talking, and we go through it. And I said, you know what? Let's do this. Let me go get the book that I use for a wedding. And let me just read that. So we're sitting there, and it was so cool. Because I said, here's, we'll skip all this seating of the mother. I said, let's get to the message, okay? And I said, here's what I talked, and I talked about a couple of things. I don't have it in here, but I talked about how it's absolutely essential that you not attempt to have the other person meet all your needs, because only God can do that. How you have to understand that marriage provides almost infinite opportunities to forgive. How you have to yield to the other person. How you have to present your sharing of your dreams and your life with one another. And as I'm talking, he's moving over. He's got his arm around her. She's got her hand over on his leg. I mean, it is incredible. I'm watching this unfold. And they said, you know what? Those kids that are getting married, they can't possibly understand what you're saying when you say this. He said, this thing is so cool because it's such a great reminder. Well, the platform was set up for a wedding for yesterday. I said, why don't we just go up and do the vows up there? So we're up here, and there's a kneeling bench facing each other, so they kneel down, and I said, well, let's just do the vows. Repeat after me. I, Jim. And he's crying. I, Jim. Loved her, and now she, I, Cheryl. They're crying, and they're crying. They're crying back and forth. And he said, and from memory, he does Ephesians 5:22 through the end of the chapter. And we do communion. It was unbelievable. It was so good. I went home and I said to Susan, I said, that was really cool. And she said, does that make you want to do it? And I said, oh, no. But it was really cool. I mean, it wasn't at all. I didn't anticipate it at all. But we started talking about the vows. And the fact that they're now a little bit older, those vows had a different meaning. Sickness and in health get a little stiff now. Better for worse. They're so rich after time. Patience. It's active, it's real. 1 John chapter 3, verse 18, little children, let us not love in word or with a tongue, but in deed and in action. The idea there is to love. Even if I'm being inconvenienced, even if I'm being taken advantage of, I love. This is an email that I got this week from Melinda McCrane, and she happens to be in this service. I didn't know that she would be, and so it doesn't change anything. I'm still going to read it. Melinda's gone through 3 surgeries in the last 6-7 weeks. Her husband, Sam, was there. Sam heads up the children's ministry team here, heads up that ministry team, and Sam was there. Friday night, Sam had some chest pains and was taken to the hospital Friday night, so he's in there, and even now, so he'll be out maybe today, tomorrow, feeling better, I think, about the test. Here's what she wrote to me. This was Thursday. Melinda wrote this. Hi, Tom. Well, I'm finally back home, and I feel much better than I did in the hospital. I'm hoping to be at church this Sunday, but we'll wait and see how it goes. I'm anxious to hear your message from last Sunday on love. I was thinking about the fact that you'd be teaching on that while I was spending Sunday in a very comfortable, parenthesis, yeah, right, hospital bed. And while I was laying there, I thought of some of the things I wanted to share with you. Felt an overwhelming love from the body of East Valley Bible Church ever since this whole ordeal started. I've received so many letters and cards and expression of concern, and I've treasured them all. God has truly used his people to show me love in so many ways as I make my way through the surgeries and treatments. The number of prayers being offered up to the throne of God in my behalf is unbelievable. But the most overwhelming show of love has been from Sam. I think it's easy to assume that a husband would naturally show love to a wife, but this goes beyond that. I am moved to tears to think of all that he's done for me to this point. My hospital stay put him over the top on the love scale. He cared for me in a way that no one ever has. Every need I had, he met, and he met it with joy. Even when I took out my frustrations on him, he responded in gentleness and love. He took on the role of my personal nurse, choosing to care for me instead of taking the easy road and just letting the nurses, who were strangers to us, do everything. He spent all but a few hours at the hospital with me and slept in a very uncomfortable couch in my room. He helped me in and out of bed. He held my hand as I attempted to walk through the pain. He dried my tears when it hurt. He even gave me baths, got my juice and blankets from the nurse's station. This will impress you. He changed the sheets on my bed several days that I was there. That gets back into something I mentioned a while ago. Is I changed a bed this year and it was really hard. It's a long story, but that's the gist of it. He protected me from evil night nurses. And helped restrict visitors when I was too tired. He did things that were small errands as well as things he never dreamt he'd have to do. All I could think of was that this was truly what 1 Corinthians 13 means. He was patient and kind and didn't want his own way. His thoughts and his time were devoted to my care. Seeing God work through my husband has been a source of unending joy for me. I saw in him the level of love that I should have for him every day. For that matter, the kind of love I should have for everyone. I don't think I'm even doing a good job to explain the love and the extent of his willingness to do anything for me. But I look at him with new eyes now. I am thankful for all that God is doing during a time that most people would consider a nightmare in my life. But the fact that I was privileged to see the love of God pouring out on my husband is one of the greatest blessings of all. It wasn't the love of just a husband caring for his wife. It was God using one of his children to comfort another. It's so amazing what God teaches us when we aren't expecting it, isn't it? That's exactly what we're talking about. Love is patient. And she nails it cold in there. There's a sense in which you would expect that. But there's a point at which it goes over the edge. Love is long-suffering. Not just when somebody is physically ill, but when somebody just is unbearable. You're there. Not only is love patient, love is also kind. That means to be useful, to be gracious. Sweet to all, one author writes. Courteous, pleasant to people. I'll give you the first test of this. The first, and I think the greatest test of whether you're kind or not, is home. If we all go over to room 100 and we set a table up and we start to eat, it's kind of, please, thank you, that was very good. Very different at home. Very different environment there. I was with a guy last week and he was saying to me, I don't understand why I'm kinder to a waitress that I don't know in a restaurant than I am to my wife that I love. The Mills Brothers nailed it cold in the mid-30s. Here's what they wrote in one of their songs. You always hurt the one you love, the one you shouldn't hurt at all. You always take the sweetest rose and crush it till the petals fall. You always break the kindest heart with a hasty word you can't recall. Here's the conclusion. So if I broke your heart last night, it's because I love you most of all. See, the reason I'm a jerk is I really care. That's a fascinating approach. You see that? Kindness is this patience moving to action, pleasant with people. Now he lists some things that love isn't, if you will, love blockers. What can stop kindness and what can disrupt patience? Well, the first is jealousy. Love is not jealous. It means to have a strong desire. It's used both in a positive and a negative sense throughout the scripture, but primarily here, obviously, in the negative sense. James chapter 3, James writes this, if you harbor bitter envy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast about it or deny the truth. Such wisdom does not come down from heaven, but is earthly, unspiritual, of the devil. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you find disorder in every evil practice. This jealousy manifests itself in two ways. One, a person wanting something that another person has. Two, me not wanting you to have what you have. Not because I want it, I just don't want you to have it. That second one's worse than the first. The first one is just jealousy. I want what you have. Envy. It's not just of a material thing, although it may be that. It may be of a car, or a house, or a lifestyle. It may be jealous of a relationship. It may be a skill or a talent or an intellect or a beauty. First hour today, 8 o'clock, we did a baby dedication. Jeff and Sherry Grimes dedicated Bailey. Jeff is one of the linebacker coaches over at ASU. And he looks like one. He's a huge guy. He's a giant man. Very young, very handsome, very chiseled. When he spoke, it was like God would speak. And I thought, this has got to be very hard for this guy to sit here every week, watch me, and not have envy. This guy's got to be jealous. He's got to be sitting there saying, man, I wish that was me. Look at that. I wish I looked like that. It'd be easier to get under doors. Probably all these things are running through his head. It's going to be that way where you look at that. Somebody sent me some statistics the other day on cosmetic surgery and just the way that this is just exploding. And it's people saying, I want to look like her. Bringing in a picture and saying, make me look like her. I just thought of it. Years ago, I went to this gal for my hair, get my hair cut. And so she said, how do you want me to cut it? And I said, well, you know, so-and-so. And he recommended me. She said, yeah. I said, well, I want you to cut it like his. His hair always looks so good. And she said, you know why his hair looks good? And I said, no, because he's got great hair. You know what you got? You got stringy, thin hair. You're not going to look. You're not going to look like him. I said, okay? I don't want his hair, his follicles I'm jealous of. And that's what it is. And it's destructive. Something more hideous is when you've got something and I don't want you to have it, not necessarily because it's something I want. I just don't like the fact that you've got it and get recognition for it. I don't want to see you do well. We used to have a saying at Coldwell Banker that the next best thing to making a deal was seeing someone else lose one. It's a little bit competitive. But watching that unfold. Love is not like that. Love is seeking the best for the other person. Love is not jealous. 2 more things this morning. Love does not brag. It's not braggadocious. It's the only time the word's used in the New Testament. There's a sense in which what we're trying to do when we brag is make others jealous of ourselves. What we're doing is somehow lifting us up, and just by that action, putting other people down. There's a guy, I speak to him regularly, however infrequently. I never call him, he calls me, and it is literally impossible for him to go 60 seconds, those first 60 seconds, without telling me who he's been with, what he's done, where he just can't, I can't stand it. Everybody hates it. You know why? Because we all got a little of it in us. The natural thing is to just brag. William Carey is thought of as the father of modern missions. Here's the attitude to have. He was a bright man, especially in the areas of languages. He translated the Bible into 34 dialects or languages. He was raised in a very simple home in England and ultimately made his way to India. One evening there he was dining at a party, and next to him was a nobleman, and he said, "I understand, Mr. Carey, that you were once a shoemaker." "Oh no, my lordship," Carey replied, "I wasn't a shoemaker, just a shoe repairman." You see, I couldn't make one, I could only fix them. Those guys that made them, they're really talented guys. There's something, see, that's why I come back to this, is so supernatural. Our natural thing is to inflate ourselves, to promote either you thinking more of us, or us somehow feeling like we're better than you. Keith Erickson, some of you know Keith. Keith played on a couple of national championship teams at UCLA in basketball, and then went into the NBA, played several years for the Suns, won a title over with the Lakers. We're having lunch one day, and we're just talking. And I was kind of a big fan of UCLA. In the Midwest, I don't know why, but I just was. There were so many great players that played at UCLA. John Wooden called Keith Erickson the best athlete he ever coached. Keith is 6'6". He actually went to UCLA on a half baseball, half basketball scholarship. He was a shortstop at 6'6", so you know he's a marvelous athlete. So we're having lunch, and I'm saying to him, I said, "Golly, I know you're a great athlete, and I know you play baseball." And I said, "I'm surprised. Weren't you raised in Southern California?" "Yeah." I said, "I'm surprised you didn't play volleyball." And he said, "Well, I did. I played some volleyball." I said, "Oh." He doesn't say much, and I said, "Did you play volleyball at UCLA?" And he said, "Yeah, we did." I said, "Oh, it makes sense that you go into basketball or baseball. I mean, there's not much left professionally in volleyball. No professional." He said, "No, we didn't play professionally." I said, "Did you ever play anything after that?" He said, "Yeah, I won a gold medal in the Olympics." I'm thinking, if I win a gold medal in the Olympics, I'm wearing it. I mean, it's right here. I've just seen the picture of me and the gold medal, and there's my gold medal. And everything in me wants to just get this out, don't you? And Keith was just so cool. I mean, I don't know if he just knew that's where I was going to end up going, but he just did it. He just kind of let that come out. I have a good friend, Charlie Hickox. Charlie swam in the 68 Olympics. Charlie won 3 gold medals and a silver medal in the 68 Olympics. And whenever we're out and we're in a situation and somebody doesn't know Charlie, I'll introduce Charlie and talk a little bit about Charlie, and then I'll say, "You may not know it or not, but Charlie won a silver medal in the 1968 Olympics." That's all I say. And it's incredible. to watch this, because they'll go, a silver medal, that's pretty incredible. That's a great thing. What was it in? I was in this. That's an incredible thing. And they're going on, and you can just see Charlie saying, I won the 3 goals too. But how do you get that in the conversation without looking like a jerk? It's perfect. It's my very favorite thing to do. Sometimes I just let it sit there like that. I'm not kidding you. You think I'm lying here, I'm telling you. Laminated in my pocket would be me with a picture of those medals. See, love doesn't do that. Here's the last thing we'll look at this morning, and love's not arrogant. Its synonym is proud, haughty. That was a problem. It's important to remember here, too, always context. That was a problem in that church at Corinth. 1 Corinthians 4:18, Paul says, some of you have become arrogant. You've started to think you're really something. You think you're better than other people. Let me come back to it. The context here is ministry. I'm never going to minister. I'm never going to serve someone that I think I'm better than them. It ain't going to happen. I may serve pridefully, but I'll never be real service. It'll always be out of responsibility or duty or hoping you see me. See, this is a heart check. What's in the heart? This isn't easy. How about John the Baptist? John the Baptist, Jesus says no one's greater ever lived than John the Baptist. So get your guys, get your Moses, get your Abraham, Joseph. I don't care, you pick them. Elijah, get them all. Get them all together. None of them greater than John the Baptist. Yet as Jesus comes onto the scene, John says this in John 1:27, it is he who comes after me, the thong of whose sandal I'm not worthy to untie. I'm not even worthy to do the meaningless task for him, menial task. I can't do that. He's got a ministry. He's very popular. Don't sterilize this. Try to be honest here. He's the main guy on the scene, and along comes Christ. That would be very hard for some to say, no, not me, but what's John say? John 3, verse 30, he must increase and I must decrease. There's the essence of service right there. Your number one besetting sin, I guarantee you, I may not know you from a post, but I know your besetting sin. Pride. What about me? How's it going to affect me? What's this mean for me? And in the context here, where he's talking about the supremacy of love over against gifts, what he's saying to you is, you're never going to be a real servant. You're never going to use that gift in a beneficial way if you have arrogance in your heart, or if you're bragging, or if you're jealous. I don't know. I planned on, here's all the notes I didn't get to today. So I think I finish this up next week. I'm not sure. We'll see. I can tell you this. Here's how we'll close next week anyway. It's a quote from William Barclay. It says this, one thing remains to be said. When we think of the qualities of this love as Paul portrays them, we can see them realized, actualized, incarnated in the life of Jesus himself. This is Christ's life. When you say, I want to be like Christ, what does that mean? Well, for us, it means I want to look like him. I want to have in my life present the same characteristics that were present in his life. And for us, it means that there's patience and kindness. And I'm not envious. I'm not jealous. I'm not bragging. I'm not arrogant. I'm not saying, look at me. See, there's why relationships have problems. You can bring in just about any couple that are married, and if there's a problem, somewhere in there's a violation of this right here. You have a wife that's not submitting, or a husband that's not loving. That's it. That manifests itself in different ways, but that's the core of the problem. When you sit down, you're going to see a wife that's not in the role she needs to be in, and a husband not in the role he needs to be in. You want to see, this marriage ought to just explode on the scene. If all I think about, and if all I'm concerned about is meeting Susan's needs, regardless of how she responds. And if she's concerned only about meeting my needs, regardless of how I respond, how can that marriage not be exciting and not be vibrant? Or any relationship. Let me expand it just a second. Let me just take a minute. Maybe you're one of these people, you just don't have a bunch of friends. I had a guy that came up to me a while ago and he said, will you be my friend? And I said, no, I don't have time to be your friend. Tell me what you're looking for. And he told me, I said, oh no, I'm way too busy to be your friend. I can't be your friend. I only have so much time. He said, I can't find a friend. You know what I told him? If you don't have any friends, why don't you try this? Why don't you make a list of what you're looking for in a friend? What are the characteristics you want in a friend? Write them down. Bim, 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 bim. And then do this. Rather than go on a search to try to find a person that's like that, why don't you be like that? Because if you're like that, it'll be like bees to honey. See, if nobody wants to spend any time with you, nobody wants to be around you, I'm going to guess that you're probably not patient and probably not kind. You probably are jealous, you probably do brag, and you probably are arrogant. And you know what? That's the natural way to live. That's the most natural thing in the world, to look out for yourself. I was talking to Dr. Barry Asmus this week, and he's an economist, and we have some great conversations. And we were talking about capitalism, and we were talking about socialism, talking about all these things. And Barry made this comment. I've heard him make it before. I love this comment. He said, the reason capitalism works is it's the only economic system in the world that acknowledges the depravity of man. It assumes that you're going to get the best deal for yourself that you possibly can. It assumes that when I pay this, you're getting as much out of me as you possibly can. That's the natural way that works. But now, God says, don't live naturally, live supernaturally. If you're sitting here and you're saying, you know what, I can't live this way, then what it probably means is you aren't a Christian. That's what it probably means. Or you've underestimated the power that you have, because you can live that way. If you're a Christian, you have the Holy Spirit in you, and living in you, He produces the fruit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, gentleness, faithfulness, and self-control. There it is. So if you say, I can't live this way, then what you're saying really is you don't want to live that way. Because you can, if you're a Christian. You have the power of the Holy Spirit in you. I want to really encourage you to join us Wednesday night. Really a time for us to come together. Thank God for who He is, for what He does, what He's done. Take less than an hour, worship together, and really, no pun intended here, set the table for Thursday morning for you, for real Thanksgiving. Let's pray. Father, help us see this truth. Let us live this way. God, thank You for Jesus. Thank You that He didn't just say, go do this. He did it. Thank You for John the Baptist, who understood Jesus must increase and we must decrease. People must see more of Him in us. God, I confess to You, these are not natural instincts for me to be patient and kind. God, my natural instinct is to preserve and protect myself. That's why I ask You, God, to help me yield and submit to be the man, the husband, the father, the friend, the person that You'd have me be. God, would You do that work in my life? I ask it in Jesus' name. Amen. See you Wednesday night.